Shortly after I lost my car, and before I needed a mobility scooter, I bought myself a new bike. I needed a way to get around. I built a trailer for it and everything. Once winter came, I decided to make studded tires for it. This time of year, winter's almost upon us, and by the time this video gets up to YouTube, winter will probably be here. So other people are thinking of making studded tires. I thought I'd show how I made mine. Just be aware that the method that I use is very dangerous. The spikes are very, very sharp, and you will have no traction whatsoever on pavement. It works good in hard packed snow and ice, but if it's soft, fluffy snow or it's really thin, like freshly fallen or whatever, there's no traction whatsoever. So it's very, very dangerous. And even just making the tires, the risk of injury is there. I cut myself pretty good a couple times while I was constructing them. But this is the method that I used. What I chose to use as studs, they're called T-nuts. They're used mainly in furniture, and just about any hardware store will have them. What they're for is you drill a hole in the wood the size of the center shaft, and you put the shaft in the hole, and the little spikes stick into the wood. So you pound them in with a hammer, and that provides a permanent nut, so you can screw in from the other side, and the nut is flush with the wood and not visible. It's more or less a hidden joint, but it turns out they work really good for tire studs. I'd stick them on the tires. Obviously, you don't stick the shaft through and the spikes through, otherwise it would pierce the tube, but it wouldn't be any effect anyway. So you got to mount them backwards so that the spikes are pointing away from the tires. And I found out the hard way that these things are very, very, very sharp. I've cut myself a couple times really, really badly with them. It's got to be really, really careful handling them. So that's the studs themselves. Now, connecting them, on the inside of the tire, I wanted to have as smooth a surface as I could, so that the tube wouldn't be affected by it. So what I used were screws with the same thread that the T-nuts had, and they got a flat top on them. They're really smooth, and they're countersunk. And just to keep them from pulling through the tire, I used countersunk washers on them, and it worked out quite well. So first thing I did was bought myself a set of new tires. I won't be using the studs year round, so I gotta put the old tires back on anyways. So I'll start with a fresh set. Now, drilling a hole through the tire isn't as easy as you would think. The tires are really soft rubber, and they're really, really flexible, and the drill bits don't like going through rubber anyways, so combination of this makes it really difficult, but it's possible to do it. So you stick the screw through from the inside and make sure the countersunk washer is in there as well. They keep from pulling it through. So I get the bolt sticking out, or screw sticking out the other side, and then screw the T-nut onto it so that the spikes are pointing away from the tire, and just screw it down by hand. Just be very, very careful because they are sharp. And once it just kind of sets against the tread, but once you tighten them down really good, the whole thing just pulls right into the tread, and it's not going to go anywhere. It won't unscrew, it won't slip around, it'll stay in place just nicely. And the other thing I want to point out is instead of running the studs down the center of the tire, I decided to stagger them. That's why the hole's off center a bit. So the next stud in line will be on the other side of the tread, and then alternate back to this side and just alternate all the way around the tire. Now I show you how to place the studs. Imagine this is your tire, looking at it from the side. Now imagine a straight line right through the center. So wherever you've placed your first stud, let's say on the left here, then you'll place your next stud exactly straight across the tire on the other side. Now, it's important to put it on the same side of the tread So if the one that you've already placed, if you're looking at the tire from the side, and if it's closer to you than the center of the tread, then the one on the other side will be closer as well. So when we do the other ones, it'll be on the other side of the tread and farther away. So for these two, they both need to be on the same side of the tread. And once you got those two studs in place, imagine another line through the tire at a 90-degree angle. Then you place one stud on the opposite side of the tread as the other two, and at the other end of the tire do the same thing there. The next step you might think would be to put a line at a 45-degree angle. But if you do that, you won't be able to stagger your studs, because you'll have two in a row on either side of the tread, and then one, and then two, and then one, and it just won't work out. So instead, we draw a line at 30 degrees, and then another one at another 30 degrees, and that splits the quarter of the tire into three parts, and you can easily stagger your studs from there. So then you put those studs in, and then make another 30 degrees at the other corner, and then another 30 degrees, and you'll be able to stagger your studs all the way around the tire, and it'll work out just nicely. Now you don't have to get out the math tools and measure this out. They don't have to be exact. You can just eyeball it. Just find the two studs at the corners, and just imagine splitting that so you have two studs that are kind of evenly spaced. If you understand what I mean, you can just eyeball it, just as long as it's close. It doesn't have to be precise. So at this point, your tire should look something like this. This is my completed tire. Now I'm going to offer some advice here. This works, but because the studs are so far apart, the vibration is incredible. So my advice is add more studs. So if you split these up, two more studs in between each of the ones that you've already got, and that'll reduce the vibration a whole lot. I wish I had done this. So basically, you can add as many studs as you want. You're only limited to the space that you have, in between each one. But just remember to keep them staggered, so you always have to have them in sets of two. And the more you have, the less the vibration will become a problem. Okay, so you got all your studs placed, and now you got to tighten them up. So at this point they're only finger tight. So you get the screwdriver out and work on the inside of the tire and tighten each one. You can just tighten it as tight as you can by hand. It'll pull the T-nuts right into the tread, and they won't go anywhere. So we'll do that and work your way around the tire until you got them all tight. And all you have left to do is cut the ends of the screws off. Now, you can use a hacksaw, or you can use a grinder, but what I found, I used bolt cutters to cut mine off, and it left a point on the end of the screw, and that'll help with the traction as well. If you use a hacksaw, you can cut on an angle so that one side's higher than the other. That'll work too, but using a grinder, unless you cut on an angle one way and the other, leave a point intentionally, then it's just gonna make it flat straight across, and it won't be as pointy, so it won't be as effective. It will still kind of work, but eventually it will wear down and it'll round off. You can't really avoid that, but the little spikes sticking up, they'll still work for a while. If you're like me and you ride fast and stop fast, you're gonna find that they slide a lot and they will wear out really quickly. But if you're just driving on ice and really hard packed surface, like I guess you get a really big snowstorm and the snow plows can't keep up with it, the snow gets packed down. It's almost like ice, but it's just really hard packed snow. It works really well on that, and you get lots of traction. There's no fear. But like I say, it's just It's very dangerous to ride on bare pavement anywhere where there is no snow, no slippery surfaces. It's very dangerous because the pavement itself, you're riding on steel basically. So there's no traction between steel and the pavement. If you ever, as a kid, rode your bicycle without tires on it, you're riding just on the rims, you'll understand what I mean. It's just, if you lean, the bike's coming out from under you. That's the biggest problem with this setup. But as long as you got lots there, I even considered putting an extra set in on the opposite side of the tread, so there's like 2 at each point. I never tried that, so I don't know how effective that would be, but the more grip you get on the ice, the better you're going to be. But again, this is ice and hardpack snow surface only. It will not work anywhere else. So if you're going to try this, good luck, and if you can find something that's more useful than the T-nuts. I haven't been able to find anything, but you may be used to working with something that you can imagine being used like this, and go for it. See how it works out. But this worked fine for me. For the one winter that I was able to use them, I kind of went to a mobility scooter after this, but